At 3:47 a.m. on June 22, 2025, a lone Russian locomotive engineer reviewed his schedule, unaware Ukrainian eyes had tracked him for 73 minutes. In just 94 seconds, 840 tons of diesel would erupt into Ukraine's latest fireworks, all courtesy of $8,000 in modified hobby drones, turning silence into explosive history. 35 kilometers away, operators from Ukraine's elite Kabul 9 unit huddled over encrypted Starlink feeds, eyes locked on the thermal view from their modified DJI Mavic reconnaissance drones. The locomotive's diesel engine burned white-hot at 47 degrees Celsius, a glaring beacon in the cool dawn, while each of the 12 fuel cars revealed subtle heat signatures, undeniable proof of a high-value target. This was no impulsive strike. For 96 hours, Ukrainian defense intelligence had tracked this exact train, aided by a partisan network armed with encrypted smartphones. They mapped its departure from the Rostov-on fuel depot, timed its average speed, and pinpointed a golden 20-minute window when the train would be farthest from Russian air defenses. In that brief gap, precision, patience, and planning would converge into a single devastating moment. The math is merciless. 12 cars, each with 70 tons of diesel, 840 tons total. That's enough to keep 3 Russian armored battalions moving for 10 days. And in war, 10 days can decide everything. Whether they smash through defenses or sit idle, looking like nothing more than very expensive lawn ornaments. These aren't your standard DJI drones anymore. Ukrainian engineers have rebuilt them from the inside out, loaded with experimental firmware that pushes their capabilities to the edge. They now boast 56x digital zoom, 45 minutes of flight endurance, and custom RF hardware running frequency hopping spread spectrum, switching channels 1,500 times per second across multiple bands. It's like playing electronic whack-a-mole, except this mole is invisible, and when you find it, it hits back. Then comes the punch. Each scratch-built FPV quadcopter carries a modified PG-7VL shaped charge warhead weighing 2.6 kilograms. Its 85mm copper cone focuses explosive energy into a molten jet traveling at 35,000 feet per second, fast enough to shred 15 millimeters of Russian steel into nothing but confetti. Designed to pierce 500 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor against an unarmored fuel car, it's like smashing an egg with a sledgehammer. Except this egg holds 70 tons of diesel. Rolling steadily at 45 kilometers per hour through occupied territory, the train's crew has no idea that in just 47 seconds, this routine resupply run will be reduced to a fireball and become a textbook example of why invading Ukraine was a spectacularly bad investment. At 3:48 a.m., just as the first strike drone begins its final run, the invisible battlefield lights up. A Russian LER-3 electronic warfare system suddenly roars to life. Its operators have finally spotted the electromagnetic signatures they've been trained to hunt. From a truck-mounted array, the system blasts jamming signals in a 30-kilometer radius, flooding the airwaves with enough RF energy to knock out every civilian cell phone from here to the next village. The LER-3 doesn't do subtle. It starts with broadband jamming, high-powered noise hurled across multiple frequency ranges at once, the electronic equivalent of dropping a thunderstorm on every receiver in sight. When that fails to phase Ukraine's drones, thanks to their advanced frequency hopping technology, the Russians switch to spot jamming, concentrating their fire on the 2.4 gigahertz and 5.8 gigahertz bands most commercial drones use. It's like your wife cranking up the vacuum cleaner to drown out your music, and when that doesn't work, disconnecting your Bluetooth speaker altogether. But Ukraine's engineers had planned for exactly this. Their frequency hopping spread spectrum system leaps across 4 separate bands 1,500 times per second, fast enough to make the LER-3's interference chase ghosts. Russian operators escalate again, moving from jamming to GPS spoofing, broadcasting fake satellite signals designed to convince the drones they're somewhere over the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's a clever move that would cripple most commercial UAVs. But these aren't store-bought toys. Each Ukrainian strike drone carries precision solid-state gyroscopes and an inertial measurement unit, IMU, constantly cross-checking GPS data with actual movement. When the two don't match, the system trusts physics over satellites. GPS can lie. The laws of Newton? Never. You can spoof GPS signals, but you can't fool Newton's laws of motion. As the lead Ukrainian attack drone nears its target, it releases what looks like a fishing line, but instead of carrying bait, it carries light. This is a fiber optic lifeline, linking the drone to operators 35 kilometers away with flawless digital precision. The reason is simple. You can jam radio waves, but you can't jam glass. Inside that hair-thin 9-micron core flows 1.5 gigabytes of data per second, enough to stream uncompressed 1080p video while simultaneously transmitting control inputs, telemetry, and GPS corrections. Best of all, fiber optics create zero electromagnetic signature. To Russian sensors, the drone appears completely autonomous, executing a pre-programmed mission with no outside control. But physics always demands payment. That cable adds weight and bulk, forcing the use of larger frames and stronger motors. And it leaves a telltale physical trail, a glinting filament that can be spotted if it piles up. Ukrainian operators know they'll have to pack up and move after the mission, but that's a price they're more than willing to pay for guaranteed control. At 3:48 a.m., even as the LER-3 unleashes maximum jamming across every frequency it can muster, the Ukrainian drones remain locked in, flying with surgical precision, connected not by airwaves but by a thread of light. The Russian operators watch in disbelief as their $5 million LER-3 electronic warfare system achieves absolutely nothing. The chess match in the electromagnetic spectrum is over. Physics just checkmated their technology with what is, essentially, a very long extension cord. At 3:49 a.m., the first Ukrainian strike drone slams into fuel car number 4 with surgical precision. Its 2.6 kilogram PG-7 VL-shaped charge doesn't simply detonate. It vaporizes a perfectly engineered hole through 15 millimeters of steel at 2,800 degrees Celsius, instantly transforming 70 tons of diesel into a roiling fireball visible for 20 kilometers. When the molten jet hits the steel wall, it doesn't crack or bend. It liquefies the metal, pushing it aside like a hot knife through butter. The fuel inside doesn't have time to spill. It vaporizes in an instant, generating a massive pressure wave that treats the car's structural integrity as little more than a suggestion. Inside, temperatures surge past 4,000 degrees Celsius, obliterating everything in moments. But the most devastating effect is still to come, something Soviet engineers never foresaw. The ventilation system linking the fuel cars, originally meant for pressure equalization during loading, now becomes a superhighway for destruction, carrying fire and shockwaves straight into the heart of the convoy. Within just 20 seconds, the Soviet-designed ventilation system, intended only for pressure equalization, turns into a highway for destruction. Burning diesel vapors race through the connecting ducts, igniting cars 3 and 5 almost instantly, merging 3 separate targets into one massive inferno. Russian crew members finally spot the second Ukrainian attack drone streaking toward car number 8. Their reaction is swift but hopeless. AK-74 rifles, spitting 5.45 millimeter rounds at a target moving 160 kilometers per hour, weaving in 3 dimensions. It's like trying to shoot a hummingbird with a shotgun while riding a mechanical bull. The fire forces the drone into erratic, evasive maneuvers, yet the operator keeps control through the chaos. Meanwhile, the aftermath of the first strike isn't textbook perfection. The shaped charge partially misfires, rupturing car 4 but leaving it structurally intact. Watching via crystal-clear fiber optic feed, the operator makes a split-second choice, equal parts genius and madness. He steers the burning wreckage straight into the spilled diesel, using the drone itself as an incendiary weapon to finish the job. Then physics joins the fight. The towering blaze creates its own weather system. Thermal convection currents generating violent updrafts and downdrafts exceeding 60 kilometers per hour. The third attack drone, closing in on Car 11, suddenly finds itself battling hurricane-force turbulence spawned by its own mission success. For the second drone, things get even trickier. Its fiber optic tether snags on a railway signal post, cutting maneuverability down to a tight 30-meter radius. The operator faces a brutal decision: Abort and waste months of planning, or press on while flying like a tethered yo-yo. He chooses the latter. The locomotive engineer slams the emergency brakes, but 840 tons of steel doesn't stop on command. And now, with multiple fuel cars burning at metal-melting temperatures, the train's immobility only makes it a bigger target. Car 4's fireball feeds the convection currents, turning the remaining attack runs into high-speed aerial knife fights against the elements themselves. The second drone's operator is fighting a war on 3 fronts: fiber optic cable tension, violent wind shear, and incoming small arms fire, while trying to line up a clean shot on car number 8. In just 33 seconds, he'll learn that the hardest part of precision warfare isn't hitting the target. It's doing it while everything around you is literally on fire. At 3:50 a.m., the third drone pilot battles vicious convection currents rising from the burning fuel cars. A thermal column shoves his approach 15 meters off course, forcing a desperate correction as tracer rounds whip past his camera feed like furious fireflies. The fire doesn't just bring wind, it blinds. Smoke particles scatter laser beams, degrading targeting accuracy, while heat shimmer scrambles infrared sensors. Flying blind, the operator switches to pure thermal navigation, chasing the heat signatures of his target through a hurricane of superheated gases. Meanwhile, the fourth drone operator faces a different nightmare: battery degradation. With only 18% charge left and 90 seconds to target, every second of fighting the thermal updrafts drains precious power. It's a one-shot mission: reach the locomotive or drop uselessly into the countryside. Back with the second drone, the tethered cable acts like an anchor, altering closure speed and thermal velocity calculations. The operator has just 1.3 seconds to adjust for drag before impact. Then it happens. Drone number 2 slams into car number 8, while drone number 3 punches into car number 11. Their shaped charges detonate within milliseconds of each other. The overlapping blast waves create constructive interference, pressure amplifying pressure, merging 2 separate strikes into one sustained, bone-shaking detonation. The shock wave rips through the train like a sledgehammer blow, the twin explosions feeding each other into a single moment of devastation. And yet, the real catastrophe is still to come. The inferno, now blazing at nearly 1200 degrees Celsius, begins to warp the very rails beneath the train. Steel engineered for 60-ton locomotives twists and buckles under thermal stress, triple its design limits, transforming precision transport infrastructure into grotesque sculptures fit for a modern art exhibit. With just 8% battery remaining, the fourth drone makes its final run on the locomotive. There's zero margin for error. Miss and a $2.4 million asset will live to haul more fuel. The PG-7VL-shaped charge slams into the engine block with surgical accuracy, ensuring that even if any fuel cars remain, this train will never move again. Then comes the math. $8,000 in modified commercial drones versus $2.4 million in destroyed rolling stock. $600,000 worth of diesel, and 3 weeks of supply disruption crippling 3 armored battalions. Not even the sharpest Wall Street hedge fund could deliver a 30,000% return on investment, especially when the dividends are paid in fire and steel.